The ashen sky hung low over the ruins of what had once been called Neoterra. Buildings, once proud and gleaming, now stood as skeletal remains, their jagged edges clawing at the dust-choked air. Maya adjusted her breathing apparatus and checked the integrity of her hazard suit for the third time that morning. The scanner on her wrist beeped rhythmically, searching for resource deposits among the wreckage. "Another day in paradise," she muttered to herself, her voice muffled behind the filtration mask. 5 years had passed since the interstellar war had officially ended, but the scars remained everywhere, in the landscape, in the air, and in the hearts of survivors like Maya. Once a combat medic for the Allied forces, she now wandered these broken streets as a scavenger, trading salvage tech and medical supplies for enough ration credits to survive another week. Maya's eyes swept across the skyline, taking in the crumbling spires of the former metropolis. Zone Delta, as this sector was now designated, was relatively safe compared to the quarantined areas. Still, dangers lurked in every shadow, from unstable structures to unexploded ordnance, not to mention the occasional desperate scavenger willing to kill for a functioning power cell. Her scanner chirped, detecting a promising signature beneath a collapsed commercial complex. Maya made her way carefully across the rubble, testing each step before committing her weight. The war might be over, but proximity mines didn't care about peace treaties. "Come to Mama," she whispered, as she unearthed a small cache of medical supplies, bandages, antiseptic, and most valuable of all, 2 sealed packages of synthetic blood. These would fetch a good price at the settlement, perhaps enough to upgrade her radiation shield or, if she was feeling particularly indulgent, a real meal not reconstituted from powder. As she packed the supplies into her rucksack, a faint sound caught her attention. Maya froze, hand instinctively moving to the pulse pistol strapped to her thigh. She held her breath, listening intently. There it was again, not the typical groaning of settling debris or the skittering of mutated vermin, but something else, something almost deliberate. Maya adjusted the frequency on her comm device, scanning the bands. Most channels produced only the familiar hiss of dead air, but then, on an old emergency frequency, she caught it, a voice, small, fragile, yet unmistakably deliberate. "Human, please take me and Mama." The voice crackled through the static, so faint Maya thought she might have imagined it. She adjusted the dial, trying to improve the reception. "Human, we are trapped. Please help. Take me and Mama." A child's voice. Maya felt her stomach tighten. There were precious few children left after the war, especially in the outer zones. Most survivors with young ones had been evacuated to the inner sanctums or off-world colonies. The signal tracker on her comm unit pinpointed the broadcast's origin. Maya's heart sank. Zone Omega, the most heavily contaminated sector of the ruined city, officially restricted due to extreme radiation levels, biological contaminants, and military quarantine protocols. "Damn it," she muttered, already knowing what she was going to do even as her rational mind screamed against it. Maya had spent 3 years hardening herself against the plights of others. In a post-war world of scarce resources, empathy was a luxury few could afford. Attachment meant vulnerability, and vulnerability meant death. She had learned this lesson the hard way when she'd lost her medical unit in the Battle of Argos Ridge. And yet, "Human, please, no more time." That voice. Something about its innocent desperation pierced through the walls Maya had built around her heart. She checked her hazard suit's integrity again and consulted the crude map on her wrist device. Zone Omega was approximately 2 kilometers east, beyond the fallen transit bridge. If she pushed hard, she could reach the signal's origin before nightfall, when the real dangers of the wasteland emerged. "I'm coming," she whispered into her comm, though she doubted the child could hear her reply. "Hold on." With a resigned sigh, Maya shouldered her pack and set off toward Zone Omega. toward a voice that had somehow found a way to remind her of who she used to be. The journey to Zone Omega required navigating a treacherous landscape of war-torn infrastructure. Maya moved cautiously through the ruins, her boots crunching on pulverized concrete and glass. The city had once been a marvel of architecture and technology, a shining example of humanity's expansion to the stars. Now, it was nothing but a graveyard of ambition. Every few minutes, Maya paused to check her radiation meter. The readings climbed steadily as she approached the boundary of Zone Omega, but remained within the tolerable range of her protective gear. More concerning were the motion sensors that occasionally picked up unidentified movement in her vicinity. The war had left behind more than just physical destruction. Some weapons had been biological and chemical in nature, creating aberrations that lurked in the shadows of the ruins. As she neared the fallen transit bridge, Maya spotted the faded warning signs that marked the official boundary of Zone Omega. The symbol for extreme radiation hazard was accompanied by newer markings indicating biological contamination and military restriction. Anyone caught trespassing in a military quarantine zone faced summary execution, if the environment didn't kill them first. "What am I doing?" Maya murmured, hesitating at the boundary. She had survived this long by following one simple rule: don't be a hero. Heroes ended up dead, their noble intentions worth nothing in a world that no longer valued nobility. Her comm unit crackled again. "Human, are you coming? I can hear footsteps. Is that you?" The voice sounded weaker now, tinged with both hope and fear. Maya closed her eyes for a moment, memories washing over her, of patients she had saved during the war, of the faces of those she couldn't, of the oath she had taken, long ago, when she still believed in things like duty and compassion. "I'm coming," she replied, stepping past the warning signs. "Keep talking so I can find you." "My name is Aaliyah," the voice responded, slightly stronger now. "Mama is sleeping. She won't wake up." Maya's medical instincts stirred at this information. "Is your mother injured, Aaliyah?" "Yes. The ceiling fell. She pushed me away but couldn't move fast enough." "How long has she been unconscious?" "Many sleeps. I've been giving her water when her eyes open a little." Maya quickened her pace. If the mother had sustained head trauma and had been drifting in and out of consciousness for days, her condition was critical. Each step now carried new urgency. The landscape of Zone Omega was noticeably different from the outer sectors. Here, the destruction was more complete, as if the area had been specifically targeted for annihilation. Buildings weren't merely damaged but pulverized, leaving only foundations and twisted metal frameworks jutting from the earth like skeletal hands. The ground itself seemed wrong, discolored in patches with unnatural hues of purple and green, where contaminated substances had leached into the soil. Maya's scanner began to alert her to numerous hazards: unstable ground, pockets of radioactive material, unexploded ordnance buried beneath the debris. She navigated carefully, using the signal from Aaliyah's transmission as her guide. "I'm getting closer." "Aaliyah," Maya said into her comm, "can you tell me what the building looks like from the inside? Any signs or markings?" "There are pictures of stars on the walls," Aaliyah replied, "and big broken machines with lights that sometimes blink." Maya frowned. That sounded like some kind of research facility or observatory. What would a child and her mother be doing in such a place? A sudden explosion to her right sent Maya diving for cover. Her heart pounded as dust and debris rained down around her. When she dared to look, she saw a crater where she had been about to step. An anti-personnel mine, triggered by her proximity. "Clever," she muttered, eyeing the pattern of rubble with new suspicion. The placement wasn't random. The mines had been deliberately positioned along the most accessible path. Someone had wanted to keep people out, or perhaps keep something in. Maya adjusted her route, moving more cautiously than before. The radiation levels continued to rise, and she activated her suit's supplementary shielding, knowing it would drain her power reserves faster, but unwilling to risk exposure. After another 30 minutes of careful progress, Maya found herself before a partially collapsed structure, unlike the others around it. While most buildings in the area had been reduced to rubble, this one still maintained substantial structural integrity, despite a massive breach in its eastern wall and several floors that had pancaked onto each other. The architecture was distinctive, reinforced and utilitarian, with few windows. Military or research, Maya guessed. Her comm unit was now picking up Aaliyah's signal directly, without the need for radio transmission. The child was inside this building. "Aaliyah!" Maya called out, both through her comm and aloud. "I'm outside the building. Can you hear me?" "Yes." The reply came with startling immediacy, the voice no longer distorted by radio static. "Third floor, in the room with the big round table." Maya studied the structure, plotting her approach. The main entrance was completely blocked by debris, but the breach in the eastern wall offered a potential entry point. She'd need to climb up about 15 feet of unstable rubble, then navigate through whatever remained of the interior. With practiced movements, Maya secured her equipment and began to climb. The jagged concrete shifted treacherously under her weight, but she found stable hand and footholds, testing each before trusting it with her full weight. Halfway up, a section gave way beneath her foot, sending a cascade of debris tumbling down. Maya clung to her position, heart racing as she waited for the dust to settle, listening for any ominous creaking that might signal a larger collapse. When nothing catastrophic followed, she continued her ascent, finally pulling herself through the ragged opening into what had once been an office space. Overturned desks, shattered terminals, and scattered documentation littered the floor. Maya swept her light across the room, noting the military-grade encryption modules attached to some of the surviving computer terminals. Definitely not a civilian facility. "Aaliyah," she called out. "I'm inside. I need to find a way up to you." "The stairs are broken," the child's voice replied, now coming from somewhere above. "Mama tried to fix them before she got hurt." Maya located what remained of the stairwell, a crumbled mess of concrete and reinforcement rods. She'd need to find another way up. Moving through the debris-strewn office, she discovered an elevator shaft with its doors partially open. The elevator car itself was crushed at the bottom of the shaft, but the maintenance ladder along the wall appeared intact. "I'm coming up through the elevator," Maya announced, prying the doors open wider and testing the ladder's strength with a firm tug. It held. The climb was nerve-wracking. Twice, rungs broke away under her hands, nearly sending her plummeting down the shaft. By the time she reached the third floor, Maya's arms burned with exertion, and sweat dampened her face inside her protective mask. She forced the elevator doors on the third floor open, just wide enough to squeeze through, emerging into a corridor littered with fallen ceiling panels and exposed wiring. Emergency lights flickered weakly, casting eerie shadows across the walls. And there, on those walls, were the stylized star charts Aaliyah had described, constellations mapped and labeled, with certain systems highlighted. "Aaliyah," Maya called out. "Here!" The voice came from behind a door at the end of the hallway. Maya made her way forward, stepping carefully around debris and checking for structural stability as she went. The door was jammed, warped in its frame by whatever catastrophic event had damaged the building. Maya braced herself and pushed, feeling the metal groan in protest before finally giving way with a shrill screech. The room beyond had once been a conference space, dominated by a large, round table equipped with holographic projectors. And there, huddled beneath the table, was a small figure clutching the hand of a prone adult form. "Aaliyah," Maya said softly, approaching slowly. The child looked up and Maya froze in her tracks. Aaliyah was not human. The child's skin was a pale lavender hue, with subtle iridescent patterns that shifted with her movements. Her eyes were disproportionately large, solid black orbs without visible pupils or irises. A fine membrane periodically swept across those eyes from side to side. Where a human child would have had hair, Aaliyah had what appeared to be delicate tendrils that moved gently, as if floating in water. An alien child, one of the Astrani, the very species the Allied forces had been at war with. Maya's hand instinctively moved toward her weapon, years of combat conditioning taking over. The Astrani had been the enemy. Their biological weapons had devastated Earth colonies. Their technology had turned Earth's own satellites against population centers. "Please don't hurt us, human," Aaliyah said, her small voice trembling. Her command of the human language was perfect, without accent or hesitation. "Mama said some humans are kind. Are you kind?" The question pierced through Maya's shock. She looked from the child to the unconscious adult, Astrani, lying on the floor. The mother's coloration was deeper, more vibrant than the child's, but now gray tinged the edges of her facial features. A large support beam lay across her lower body, and dark, purple fluid, Astrani blood, had pooled and dried on the floor beneath her. Maya's medical training battled with her wartime experiences. The Astrani woman was severely injured. That much was obvious. Without intervention, she would die. And the child, looking at Maya with those large, unreadable eyes, would be alone. Enemy or not, they were survivors, just like her. And Maya had been a medic before she was a soldier. "Yes," Maya finally answered, lowering her hand from her weapon. "I'm kind. My name is Maya. I was a medic. I'm going to help your mother." Relief visibly washed over Aaliyah's features, her tendrils rippling with the emotion. "Mama said a kind human would come if I used the radio. She taught me the words to say." Maya approached and knelt beside the injured Astrani woman, her medical training taking over as she assessed the situation. The beam across the woman's lower body was crushing her pelvis and legs. Moving it improperly could cause catastrophic bleeding. "Aaliyah, how long has your mother been trapped like this?" "7 sleeps," the child replied. "The big shake happened, and everything fell. Mama pushed me under the table, but she couldn't get under in time. 7 days. It was a miracle the Astrani woman was still alive. Their physiology was different from humans, more resilient in some ways, more fragile in others. Maya had treated Astrani prisoners during the war, so she had some knowledge of their medical needs, but she was far from an expert. "I need to check her injuries," Maya explained to Aaliyah as she removed medical supplies from her pack. "Can you tell me your mother's name?" "Alara," Aaliyah said. "She's a scientist. She was trying to send a message when the big shake happened." Maya nodded, filing this information away as she carefully examined Alara's condition. The Astrani woman's breathing was shallow, but stable. Her pulse, located not at the wrist, but at the junction of neck and shoulder, was weak, but regular. The most immediate threat was the crushing injury to her lower body. "Aaliyah, I'm going to try to lift this beam off your mother," Maya said. "But I'll need your help. Can you be my assistant?" The child nodded eagerly, her tendrils rippling with determination. "Good. First, I need you to take these bandages and be ready to press them against any new bleeding that starts when I move the beam." As Maya instructed Aaliyah in basic first aid, appropriate to Astrani physiology, she surveyed the room for anything that could help her leverage the beam. An overturned chair with a metal frame caught her attention. If she could wedge it under the beam and use it as a fulcrum. "Okay, Aaliyah, here's what we're going to do." Working together, they positioned the chair and Maya's reinforced supply pack to create a lifting mechanism. Maya then braced herself against the beam. "When I lift, you pull your mother very gently by the shoulders, away from the beam. Ready?" Aaliyah nodded, her small hands gripping her mother's shoulders. 1, 2, 3. Maya heaved with all her strength, feeling the beam shift. It rose perhaps 6 inches. enough for Aaliyah to begin carefully pulling her mother free. The child moved with surprising strength, dragging the unconscious Astrani inch by inch. "Keep going," Maya encouraged through gritted teeth, muscles trembling with the effort of holding the heavy beam. "You're doing great." Just as Alara's legs came free, Maya's makeshift lever collapsed. The beam crashed down, missing the Astrani woman by inches. Maya staggered back, breathing hard from the exertion. "We did it!" Aaliyah exclaimed, but her celebration was short-lived as she looked down at her mother's injuries. Alara's lower body was severely damaged. The right leg was clearly broken in multiple places, the left crushed beyond recognition. The purple blood had begun flowing freely again now that the pressure was removed. Maya worked quickly, applying pressure bandages and biosealant to staunch the bleeding. She administered a general antibiotic from her kit, one she knew was compatible with Astrani physiology, and a mild analgesic. It wasn't enough. Not nearly enough. But it might keep Alara stable until Maya could figure out what to do next. As she worked, questions tumbled through Maya's mind. What were an Astrani scientist and her child doing alone in a military research facility in Zone Omega? Why had Alara taught her daughter to call for human help specifically? And, perhaps most pressingly, how was Maya going to get them out of here? "Aaliyah," Maya said gently as she finished bandaging Alara's wounds. "Your mother needs more medical help than I can give her here. We need to move her somewhere safer. Do you know if there's any special equipment in this building that might help us? A medical bay, perhaps, or transportation?" Aaliyah's tendrils twisted in what Maya was beginning to recognize as a thinking gesture. "Mama used the healing room downstairs sometimes, and there's a big robot in the basement that moves heavy things. A medical facility and a loading mech. Both could be invaluable." But before Maya could respond, a low groan came from Alara. The Astrani woman's eyes, similar to her daughter's but with subtle violet striations, fluttered open. "Aaliyah?" Her voice was weak, barely audible. "Mama!" The child practically vibrated with joy. "The kind human came, just like you said." Alara's gaze shifted to Maya, confusion giving way to recognition. Your allied forces. Medical division." Maya nodded, surprised. "How did you know?" "The insignia on your thermal regulator," Alara said, her voice strengthening slightly. "It's faded, but I recognize it." Maya glanced down at her suit. The medic emblem was indeed still barely visible on the chest panel of her hazard suit, worn by years of use, but not completely erased. "I treated your people during the war," Maya said carefully. "Prisoners and refugees." Alara seemed to relax slightly at this information. "Then you understand anatomy well enough to know I'm dying." "Mama, no!" Aaliyah cried, her tendrils flattening against her head in distress. "I've stabilized you for now," Maya countered. "But you need proper medical attention. Your daughter mentioned a healing room downstairs and a loading mech in the basement. If we can get you to the medical facility—" "The regeneration chamber," Alara corrected weakly. "Yes. It might buy me time." She reached up to touch her daughter's face tenderly. "Aaliyah, brave one, I need you to show Maya where my personal thermal regulator is stored. The one in the locked cabinet." The child nodded and scurried to a wall cabinet that had partially broken free of its mounting. She tugged at the door, which refused to open. Maya moved to help, examining the lock. It was a biometric system, still operational despite the damage to the building. "It needs Mama's hand," Aaliyah explained. Maya looked back at Alara, who nodded weakly. "Help me up. I don't have the strength to walk." With careful movements, Maya supported Alara as they made their way to the cabinet. The Astrani woman pressed her palm against the scanner, which emitted a soft beep before the lock disengaged. Inside was what appeared to be a compact backpack with intricate technological components. "This is a personal thermal regulator," Alara explained, as Maya helped her back to a sitting position against the wall. Our species requires specific temperature and humidity conditions to function optimally. This device can maintain those conditions in hostile environments. Maya understood the implications immediately. Like Earth's atmosphere. Alara nodded. Without it, Aaliyah and I would experience rapid deterioration in Earth's atmosphere. The war disrupted the production of these devices, making them rare and precious. Is yours malfunctioning? Maya asked, examining the device. She could see signs of damage, scorched circuitry, and a cracked housing. It was damaged in the collapse, Alara confirmed. I've been rationing its use, activating it only when absolutely necessary to preserve power. But it's failing. If you could repair it. Maya carefully inspected the device. The technology was advanced but not incomprehensible. The primary issue appeared to be a damaged power coupling and a misaligned environmental sensor. I think I can fix this, Maya said, reaching for her toolkit. But it will take time, and we need to get you to that regeneration chamber. The rescue robot, Aaliyah insisted. It can carry Mama. Maya nodded. Can you show me how to find it, Aaliyah? I'll guide you, Alara interjected. But first, there's something you need to know. She beckoned Maya closer. The reason we're here, the reason I risked everything to reach this facility, it's not just about survival. Alara's voice dropped to a whisper, and she glanced nervously at the doorway, as if fearing unseen listeners. This facility was a collaborative research center before the war, astronomy and human scientists working together on biotechnology. When relations deteriorated, it was repurposed for weapons research. Maya felt a chill that had nothing to do with the building's temperature. What kind of weapons? The worst kind, Alara replied grimly. Biological agents designed to target specific genetic markers, weapons that could differentiate between human and Astrani DNA. She paused, gathering strength. I was part of the original collaborative team. When the facility was repurposed, I sabotaged certain aspects of the research, introduced deliberate errors into the formulations. You were a saboteur, Maya said, understanding dawning. I was a scientist who refused to create genocide, Alara corrected firmly. When the Allied forces realized what I had done, they imprisoned me here. They kept Aaliyah as leverage to force my cooperation. Maya looked at the child, who was watching their conversation with those large, unreadable eyes. How long have you been prisoners here? 3 years, Alara answered. Until the earthquake 7 days ago, which damaged the containment systems and gave us this chance at escape. She reached inside her tattered clothing and withdrew a small, crystalline device. This is why we need to get out of here. This is what they wanted. What is it? Maya asked, eyeing the strange object. A memory module containing the complete data from the collaborative research. Alara explained. The original purpose of our work, healing technology that could adapt to both human and Astrani physiology. Technology that could have prevented the war if it had been allowed to develop. Maya stared at the crystal, understanding its significance. If what Alara said was true, the device contained scientific knowledge that could not only help rebuild after the war, but potentially prevent future conflicts between the species. There are people, on both sides, who don't want this information released. Alara continued urgently. People who profited from the war, who maintain power through continued tension and segregation. If we can get this data to the right people, to the Interstellar Peace Commission. A sudden tremor shook the building, sending dust and small debris raining down from the ceiling. The structure groaned ominously. The building's unstable, Maya said, pocketing the crystal and returning her attention to the thermal regulator. I need to fix this quickly. Then we need to move. Working with practiced efficiency, Maya repaired the power coupling and realigned the environmental sensor. It wasn't a perfect fix, but it should function well enough to maintain suitable conditions for the Astrani. Try it now, she said, handing the device to Alara. The Astrani woman activated the regulator, which hummed to life, emitting a soft blue glow. Almost immediately, Alara's breathing eased, and her coloration improved slightly. "It's working," she confirmed. "Not at full capacity, but enough." She looked at Maya with genuine gratitude. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet," Maya replied, helping Alara secure the device to her back. "We still need to get out of this building and somehow cross through Zone Omega, back to safer territory." "The rescue robot first," Aaliyah insisted. "It can help us escape." Maya nodded. "Lead the way, Aaliyah." The journey to the basement level was arduous. With the stairwells collapsed and the elevator shaft too dangerous for Alara in her condition, they were forced to improvise. Maya discovered a maintenance chute that, while not designed for human passage, could serve their needs with some modification. Using tools from her pack, Maya widened the opening of the chute and constructed a crude harness from spare webbing. The plan was simple but risky. Maya would go down first, then use the harness to lower Alara carefully, with Aaliyah guiding the injured woman into the chute. "Are you sure about this?" Alara asked, as Maya prepared to enter the chute. "Not even slightly," Maya admitted with a grim smile. "But I don't see another option, do you?" Alara's expression, though alien in its features, conveyed resigned agreement. "Be careful." The descent through the maintenance chute was claustrophobic and treacherous. Twice, Maya had to stop and clear debris blocking her path. The shaft angled at one point, causing her to slide uncontrollably for several meters before she managed to brace herself against the walls. By the time she emerged into a maintenance corridor on the basement level, her hazard suit was torn in several places, and fresh bruises throbbed beneath the fabric. After catching her breath, Maya secured the harness rope to a sturdy pipe and called up to Aaliyah. "I'm in position. Get your mother ready." The process of lowering Alara through the chute was agonizing. Despite Maya's best efforts to create a smooth descent, the injured Astrani woman couldn't suppress cries of pain as her damaged body scraped against the chute walls. Aaliyah climbed down after her mother with surprising agility, her small form better suited to the narrow passage. Once they were all safely in the basement corridor, Maya took a moment to check Alara's condition. The journey had reopened some of her wounds, and fresh purple blood stained the bandages. Maya applied additional pressure dressings, acutely aware that their situation was growing more desperate by the minute. "The robot storage is that way," Aaliyah said, pointing down the dimly lit corridor. "Mama showed me once." They moved as quickly as Alara's condition would allow, with Maya supporting most of the Astrani woman's weight. The basement level of the facility was less damaged than the upper floors, though evidence of the earthquake was still visible in cracked walls and buckled floor panels. The robot storage bay was secured by a heavy door with another biometric lock. Once again, Alara placed her palm against the scanner, and the door slid open with a hydraulic hiss. Inside, illuminated by emergency lighting, stood a hulking mechanical form. The rescue robot was approximately 3 meters tall, with a humanoid upper body mounted on a tracked base. Its design was utilitarian, clearly built for function rather than aesthetics, with powerful manipulator arms and a reinforced chassis, capable of withstanding extreme conditions. "Standard RX-7 rescue mech," Alara explained. "Used for heavy lifting and extraction operations in hazardous environments." "Can you operate it?" Maya asked, helping Alara to a seated position against the wall. "In my condition? No. But it has a basic AI system that can respond to simple commands." Alara gestured weakly toward a control panel. "Activate the emergency protocols. Authorization code Alara 97 Delta Helios." Maya approached the panel and input the code as instructed. For a tense moment, nothing happened. Then, with a series of mechanical whirs and clicks, the rescue robot powered up. Its optical sensors glowed a soft blue as systems came online. "Rescue protocol initiated," announced a synthesized voice from the mech. "Awaiting situation assessment." Medical emergency, Maya called out clearly. One critically injured person requiring transport. The robot processed this information, its sensors scanning the room and locking onto Alara. Subject identified. Injury assessment. Severe. Recommended action. Immediate medical evacuation. We need to reach the regeneration chamber on the second floor first, Maya explained. The mech's head tilted slightly, as if confused. Structural integrity analysis indicates second-floor access routes are compromised. Alternative. Medical bay on this level is operational at 64% capacity. Maya looked at Alara questioningly. There's a secondary regeneration chamber in the medical bay here, Alara confirmed. It's not as advanced as the one upstairs, but it's better than nothing. The rescue robot moved forward, its tracked base navigating easily over the debris-strewn floor. With surprising gentleness for such a large machine, it extended its manipulator arms and carefully lifted Alara. Lead the way to the medical bay, Maya instructed the mech. Acknowledged. Proceeding to medical bay. Warning. Power reserves at 42% and declining. Estimated operational time remaining, 3.7 hours. This new complication dampened Maya's growing optimism. Without power, the robot would be useless. And more importantly, the medical equipment Alara needed would be non-functional. Are there backup power sources in the facility? Maya asked, as they followed the mech down the corridor. The emergency generators are likely damaged, Alara replied weakly. But there's an auxiliary power cell storage adjacent to the medical bay. If any cells survived the earthquake. The medical bay, when they reached it, was a stark, clinical space with equipment that blended human and Astrani design aesthetics. At the center of the room stood what Maya assumed was the regeneration chamber, a cylindrical pod filled with a translucent, slightly luminescent fluid. The rescue robot gently placed Alara on an examination table, while Maya investigated the chamber's status. The control panel indicated minimal power, enough to activate the system, but not to complete a full regeneration cycle. We need those power cells, Maya said, turning to Aaliyah. Can you show me where they're stored? The child nodded and led Maya to a small adjoining room lined with storage compartments. Most had been damaged in the earthquake, their contents either destroyed or rendered unusable. But in the back corner, 3 intact power cells remained, their status lights glowing a reassuring green. These should work, Maya said, gathering the cells. Each was about the size of a thick textbook and surprisingly heavy. Let's hope they're enough. Back in the medical bay, Maya installed the power cells into the regeneration chamber's auxiliary input. The system responded immediately, the fluid within the chamber beginning to circulate and glow more intensely. System at 78% capacity, announced an automated voice. Sufficient for basic regenerative functions. Warning, full tissue reconstruction not possible with current power levels. It will have to do, Alara said as the rescue robot helped transfer her from the examination table to the chamber. This won't heal me completely, but it should stabilize my condition enough for travel. As the chamber sealed around Alara, Maya turned to Aaliyah. How long will this take? Mama said quick healing is 1 hour, the child replied, her large eyes fixed on her mother floating in the luminescent fluid. But bad injuries take longer. Maya checked her radiation meter and frowned at the readings. Even with her hazard suit, she was approaching dangerous exposure levels. Zone Omega was not a place where one could linger safely. And if her suit was registering these levels, what were the Astrani experiencing? Aaliyah, how long have you and your mother been exposed to the radiation here? The child's tendrils twisted in that thinking gesture again. Mama said the special walls kept the bad air out until the big shake. Then the walls broke, and the bad air came in. That's when Mama's breathing got worse. 7 days of radiation exposure, even with the partial protection of the thermal regulator, would be taking a severe toll on both Astrani. Maya couldn't see obvious signs of radiation sickness in Aaliyah, But different species manifested symptoms differently. They needed to get out of Zone Omega as soon as possible. While they waited for the regeneration process to complete, Maya surveyed their options. The rescue robot's remaining power was a concern, as was finding a safe route back through the hazardous terrain of Zone Omega. And looming over all these practical concerns was the larger question of what to do with Alara's memory crystal and the potentially world-changing information it contained. "Aaliyah," Maya said gently, sitting down beside the child, who had not moved from her vigil by her mother's regeneration chamber. "Your mother said this facility was doing research before the war. Were there other Astrani here? Or just your mother?" "Just Mama," Aaliyah replied. "She said others went home when the fighting started. But they made Mama stay because she knew important things." "And you? Were you born here?" Aaliyah nodded. "Mama says I've never seen our real home. She promises to show me when we escape." The child's voice dropped to a whisper. "Is that true? Will we escape?" The simple question carried the weight of years of captivity and desperate hope. Maya found herself unwilling to offer false reassurances, yet equally unwilling to crush that hope. "I'm going to do everything I can to make that happen," she answered carefully. "But I need to understand more about what we're facing. Do you know if there are still human soldiers in this facility? Or security systems we need to avoid?" "The soldiers left after the big shake," Aaliyah said. "But the flying machines still come sometimes. Mama says they're looking for us." "Flying machines? Drones?" Aaliyah nodded. "They make buzzing sounds and have bright lights. Mama said to hide when we hear them." "Military drones conducting search patterns. That complicated matters significantly. If the Allied forces had indeed lost an Astrani scientist and her child, along with classified research data, they would be deploying considerable resources to recover them." A warning chime from the regeneration chamber interrupted Maya's thoughts. The fluid began to drain, and the chamber's seal disengaged with a pneumatic hiss. Alara's eyes fluttered open as the rescue robot moved to assist her from the chamber. The difference was immediately apparent, though still gravely injured. Alara's coloration had improved dramatically, and her movements, while pained, were more coordinated. The regeneration process had stabilized her most critical injuries. "How do you feel?" Maya asked, helping Alara to sit upright. "Like I've been crushed by a building," the Astrani woman replied, with unexpected dry humor. "But I'll live, thanks to you." "We're not out of danger yet," Maya cautioned. "Aaliyah mentioned military drones searching the area. If they're looking for you—" "They are," Alara confirmed grimly. "The memory crystal I showed you, it contains more than just scientific data. It also has evidence of war crimes committed by high-ranking officials in both the Allied forces and the Astrani Conclave. People who orchestrated the conflict for their own gain." Maya absorbed this information, its implications sending a chill down her spine. "That's why you were teaching Aaliyah to call for human help specifically. You needed someone outside the military chain of command." Alara nodded. "Someone who might still have enough humanity left to help an enemy." Her large eyes studied Maya intently. "Like a medic who once treated Astrani prisoners." The personal nature of the observation caught Maya off guard. "You knew I would come?" "No," Alara admitted. "But I hoped someone like you might." The alternative was to die here with the truth undiscovered. She gestured to the rescue robot. "This mech has a built-in communication system capable of broadcasting on emergency frequencies. Before the earthquake, I was attempting to modify it to reach the Interstellar Peace Commission directly. I didn't finish." "And now you want me to help you complete that task," Maya concluded. "Yes, but not here. This facility is too unstable, and the radiation levels are rising. There's an old communications outpost on the edge of Zone Omega, approximately 3 kilometers northwest of here. If we can reach it, we can use its transmission equipment to broadcast the data from your crystal." Maya finished the thought. But that means crossing through some of the most contaminated terrain in the ruins, with military drones actively searching for you. Alara met Maya's gaze steadily. I understand if you choose to leave us now. You've already done more than I had any right to expect from a former enemy. Maya felt the weight of the decision before her. The rational choice was clear. Take the crystal herself, leave the Astrani to their fate, and make her own way to the communications outpost. Her chances of survival would be significantly higher without an injured alien and a child slowing her down. But as she looked at Aaliyah, this small being who had known nothing but captivity her entire life, Maya knew she couldn't abandon them. Whatever crimes the Astrani race might have committed during the war, this child was innocent. And Alara had risked everything to preserve knowledge that could heal rather than destroy. The rescue robot can carry you, Maya said finally. We'll move faster that way, but we need to be smart about this. She turned to examine a map terminal on the wall of the medical bay. If I can download the terrain data for Zone Omega into my wrist device, we can plot the safest route to the communications outpost. Relief washed over Alara's features. The terminal should still be functional. Access code is Helios Epsilon 92. As Maya worked to download the necessary data, a faint sound from outside the facility caught her attention. A low, mechanical humming that grew steadily louder. Drones, Alara whispered, fear evident in her voice. They've found us. Maya moved quickly to the medical bay's single window, careful to stay out of sight as she peered outside. A military-grade search drone hovered approximately 50 meters from the facility, its sensors scanning methodically across the ruins. It was only a matter of time before it detected them. We need to move now, Maya said urgently. Is there a rear exit from the basement level? Yes, through the loading bay, Alara confirmed as the rescue robot carefully lifted her once more. But we'll be exposed once we leave the building. Maya checked her wrist device, which now displayed a topographical map of Zone Omega, with radiation hotspots marked in angry red. There's a drainage tunnel system running beneath this sector. If we can reach an access point, it might provide cover from both the drones and the worst of the radiation. The nearest access point is approximately 400 meters southwest, Alara said, studying the map. Through the old processing plant. Maya nodded grimly. Then, that's our target. Aaliyah, stay close to me. If I tell you to hide, you hide immediately. Understand? The child nodded solemnly, her tendrils flat against her head in what Maya now recognized as a sign of fear or stress. Rescue unit. Maya addressed the robot. Priority objective. Protect and transport the injured subject to the coordinates I'm uploading now. Secondary objective. Provide tactical support against aerial surveillance units. Objectives acknowledged, the mech responded. Warning. Power reserves at 37%. Estimated operational time remaining, 3.2 hours. It would have to be enough. Maya led the way through the basement corridors to the loading bay, checking each intersection carefully before proceeding. The facility's emergency lighting flickered ominously, suggesting the building's power systems were failing. The loading bay doors were partially open, jammed at an angle that would require them to squeeze through one at a time. Maya went first, scanning the exterior for immediate threats before signaling the others to follow. Outside, the devastated landscape of Zone Omega stretched before them, a wasteland of twisted metal, pulverized concrete, and soil discolored by chemical contamination. The ashen sky hung low, and a faint, acrid smell penetrated even Maya's breathing apparatus. In the distance, the drone continued its search pattern, moving methodically away from their position, but still close enough to detect them if they moved carelessly. Stay low and move quickly, Maya instructed. Use the larger debris for cover when possible. They began their treacherous journey across the ruins, with Maya leading the way and the rescue robot following with Alara securely in its mechanical arms. Aaliyah stayed between them, her small form darting from one piece of cover to the next with surprising agility. Progress was slower than Maya had hoped. The terrain was treacherous, with unstable footing and concealed hazards that required careful navigation. Every few minutes, they were forced to pause and take cover as the drone's search pattern brought it too close for comfort. After nearly 30 minutes of this nerve-wracking progress, they had covered perhaps half the distance to the drainage tunnel access point. Maya checked her radiation meter again and frowned at the steadily climbing readings. They couldn't afford to linger in this environment much longer. As they paused behind the remains of a collapsed water tower, Aaliyah suddenly tensed, her tendrils extending rigidly. "What is it?" Maya whispered. "The air feels wrong," the child said. "Like before rain, but burning." Alara's expression turned to one of alarm. "Acid storm! We need shelter immediately!" Maya looked up at the lowering clouds, now taking on a sickly, yellowish tinge. The chemical weapons used during the war had permanently altered the atmospheric composition in some regions, resulting in precipitation that could melt flesh from bone. "How long do we have?" "Minutes, perhaps," Alara replied urgently. "The thermal regulator offers some protection, but not enough for a direct exposure." Maya scanned their surroundings desperately. The drainage access point was still too far, and there was no substantial shelter visible in their immediate vicinity. Then her eyes fell on the rescue robot. "The mech," she said. "Its chassis is designed to withstand hazardous environments. If we can find a way to use it as shelter—" "Its storage compartment," Alara suggested quickly. "Designed for transporting rescued personnel in hazardous conditions. It's small, but it might fit all of us if we—" A sudden gust of wind cut her off, carrying with it the first droplets of the coming storm. Where the yellowish drops hit exposed metal, they sizzled ominously. "Rescue unit," Maya commanded urgently. "Open personnel transport compartment and prepare for multiple occupants." The robot responded immediately, a panel on its back sliding open to reveal a cramped compartment lined with protective padding. It was designed for perhaps 2 average-sized humans in emergency situations. "Aaliyah first," Maya insisted, helping the child climb into the compartment. "Then Alara." With the rescue robot's assistance, they managed to position the injured Astrani woman in the compartment beside her daughter. The space was already nearly full. "There's not enough room for you," Alara observed, concern evident in her voice. Maya knew she was right. The compartment couldn't possibly accommodate a third person. The acid rain was beginning to fall more steadily now, drops hissing as they struck the ground around them. "I'll be fine," Maya lied, securing the thermal regulator more firmly to Alara's back. "My hazard suit will protect me." It was a desperate falsehood. The suit might resist the corrosive rain briefly, but not for the duration of a storm. Still, there was no alternative. "Take this," Alara insisted, pressing the memory crystal into Maya's hand. "If something happens to us—" Maya nodded grimly, securing the crystal in an inner pocket of her suit. "Rescue unit, seal compartment and proceed to the drainage access point at maximum safe speed. Priority is protecting occupants from environmental hazards." "Acknowledged," the mech responded. "Sealing compartment. Warning, power reserves at 29%. As the compartment sealed shut, Maya caught a final glimpse of Aaliyah's large eyes, watching her with a mixture of fear and gratitude. Then she was alone in the gathering storm. Maya moved as quickly as she dared across the treacherous terrain, following the rescue robot at a distance. The acid rain was falling steadily now, and she could feel the integrity of her hazard suit deteriorating with each passing minute. Where droplets struck exposed skin at her torn sleeve, pain flared hot and immediate. The drainage access point appeared ahead, a circular concrete structure rising slightly above the surrounding rubble. The rescue robot reached it first, its mechanical arms working to remove the heavy cover blocking the entrance. By the time Maya arrived, the access was open, and the robot was preparing to descend with its precious cargo. The acid rain had intensified to a downpour, and Maya's vision was obscured by the caustic liquid streaming across her faceplate. "Go," she ordered the mech. "Get them to safety." As the robot disappeared into the drainage tunnel, Maya followed, nearly falling as she scrambled down the corroded metal ladder. The moment she was below ground level, the relief was palpable, the tunnel providing shelter from the corrosive rain above. Maya stripped off her compromised hazard suit, outer layer, wincing as the movement aggravated the acid burns on her exposed skin. The drainage tunnel stretched before them, a circular concrete passage large enough to stand in, with a shallow stream of murky water flowing along its bottom. The rescue robot had opened its compartment, allowing Alara and Aaliyah to emerge. Both appeared unharmed by the acid storm, protected by the mech's reinforced chassis. "Your arm," Alara observed with concern, noting the angry red burns on Maya's skin. "I have had worse," Maya replied, though the pain was considerable. She consulted her wrist device, which still displayed the map of Zone Omega. According to this, the drainage system runs all the way to the edge of Zone Omega. If we follow it northwest, it should take us close to the communications outpost. "Can we trust that the tunnels are intact?" Alara asked, as the rescue robot once again lifted her carefully. "We're about to find out," Maya answered grimly. "Rescue unit, what's your power status?" "Power reserves at 24%. Estimated operational time remaining, 2.1 hours. "It would have to be enough." Maya took point once more, leading their small group deeper into the drainage tunnels. The footing was treacherous, slippery with slime and unidentified substances, but still preferable to the hazards above ground. They traveled in tense silence, broken only by the splash of their movement through the shallow water and the mechanical whir of the rescue robot. The tunnels branched occasionally, forcing Maya to consult her map to ensure they maintained the correct heading. After approximately 20 minutes of travel, they encountered their first obstacle, a collapsed section of tunnel that blocked their path entirely. "We need to find another route," Maya said, studying the map. "There's a junction about 50 meters back that branches eastward. It's not ideal. Takes us slightly off course, but it should reconnect with the main tunnel eventually." As they backtracked to the junction, Aaliyah suddenly froze, her tendrils extending in that now familiar alert posture. "What is it?" Maya whispered, instantly on guard. "Something's coming," the child whispered back. "I can feel vibrations." Maya strained her ears and detected it too. A faint, mechanical humming, different from the rescue robot's operational sounds. And it was coming from the direction they had been heading. "Drones," Alara said softly. "They must have deployed search units into the drainage system." The realization was chilling. If military drones were systematically searching the tunnels, their escape route was compromised. Worse, in these confined spaces, evasion would be nearly impossible. "Rescue unit," Maya addressed the mech urgently. "Can you detect approaching surveillance devices?" "Affirmative. 3 unmanned aerial units approaching from northwest tunnel branch. Estimated contact in 90 seconds. Can you neutralize them without compromising your primary objective?" The robot seemed to consider this for a moment. "Affirmative. Combat subroutines available. Warning, engagement will accelerate power consumption." Maya weighed their options rapidly. If the drones reported their location, more would follow. They had to neutralize this threat. But the robot's dwindling power reserves were a critical concern. "New plan," she decided. "Rescue unit. You and Alara take the eastern branch. Proceed to the communications outpost as planned. Aaliyah comes with me. We'll create a diversion to draw the drones away." "No," Alara protested. "You can't separate us." "It's our best chance," Maya insisted. "The robot doesn't have enough power to both fight the drones and carry you all the way to the outpost. This way, you'll reach the objective safely while we lead the pursuit elsewhere." "Mama, I can do it," Aaliyah said with surprising resolve. "Maya will protect me." Alara looked torn, her alien features expressing very human concern and fear for her child. Finally, she reached into a pocket of her tattered clothing and withdrew a small device. "Take this," she told Maya. "It's a signal dampener. It may help mask your presence from the drone's sensors. Activate it only when necessary. It has limited charge." Maya accepted the device with a nod of thanks. "We'll rendezvous at the communications outpost. If we're not there within 3 hours..." "We'll wait," Alara said firmly. "No matter how long it takes." There was no time for further discussion. The sound of approaching drones was growing louder. With a final exchange of determined looks, Maya and Aliyah headed down the western tunnel branch, while the rescue robot carried Alara eastward. Maya led Aliyah at a crouching run through the tunnel, splashing through the shallow water without concern for stealth. Their objective now was to be detected, to draw the pursuit away from Alara and the precious data she carried. "When I say stop, freeze completely," Maya instructed Aliyah as they ran. "Those drones use motion detection as well as thermal imaging." "I understand," the child replied, keeping pace remarkably well despite her small stature. They rounded a bend in the tunnel, and Maya called for a halt, pressing herself and Aliyah against the curved wall. In the distance, the distinctive hum of military drones grew louder. Carefully, Maya peered around the corner. 3 compact drones were approaching, spherical units approximately 30 centimeters in diameter, equipped with multiple sensor arrays and what appeared to be non-lethal stun weaponry. Standard search and capture models, designed to incapacitate targets for later retrieval by human operators. Maya withdrew a small mirror from her pack and positioned it carefully around the corner, allowing her to monitor the drone's approach without exposing herself. When they were approximately 20 meters away, she nodded to Aliyah. "Ready. Remember, run as fast as you can and don't stop until I tell you." The child nodded, her tendrils tightening close to her head in what Maya had come to recognize as a sign of determination. "Now!" Maya surged forward into the tunnel, deliberately splashing loudly and shining her light directly at the approaching drones. "Hey! Over here!" The effect was immediate. The drone's operational lights shifted from blue to red as they registered the human presence. Maya fired a single shot from her pulse pistol, deliberately missing but providing additional stimulus, before turning and running back the way they had come, Aliyah close at her heels. The drones gave chase, their motors whining as they accelerated. Maya led them through a series of turns, intentionally making their flight appear panicked and unplanned. In reality, she was following a route she had memorized from the map, one that would lead the pursuit as far from Alara's path as possible. After several minutes of this frantic chase, Maya pulled Aliyah into a narrow side passage, barely wide enough for them to squeeze through. The drones, unable to follow due to their size, hovered at the entrance, their sensors scanning for alternative routes. "Activate the dampener," Maya whispered to Aliyah. The child pressed the button on the device Alara had given them. A soft hum emanated from it, and a small light indicated it was functioning. Maya hoped it would be enough to confuse the drone's sensors. For long, tense minutes, they remained motionless in the cramped passage as the drones continued their search outside. Eventually, the mechanical humming began to fade as the drones moved on, presumably to search other branches of the tunnel system. "They're leaving," Aliyah whispered, her tendrils relaxing slightly. "For now," Maya cautioned. "But they'll be back with reinforcements once they report failure to their control unit." She consulted her wrist device. "We need to find another route to the communications outpost, preferably one that takes us above ground. The tunnel system is too easy to search systematically." The map showed a maintenance access point approximately 200 meters ahead that would bring them back to the surface near the edge of Zone Omega. From there, they could approach the communications outpost from an unexpected direction. "Let's move," Maya said, deactivating the signal dampener to conserve its charge. "And stay quiet. Sound carries in these tunnels." They proceeded cautiously, pausing frequently to listen for signs of pursuit. The drainage tunnel gradually widened as they approached the maintenance access, the water level rising to mid-calf height. Maya lifted Aaliyah onto her shoulders to keep the child dry, acutely aware that the alien physiology might react poorly to prolonged exposure to the contaminated water. The maintenance access appeared ahead, a vertical shaft with metal rungs embedded in the concrete wall, leading to a heavy cover at surface level. Maya set Aaliyah down on a dry section of the tunnel floor and examined the shaft carefully. "I'll go first to make sure it's safe," she told the child. "If you hear anything alarming, drones, voices, anything, hide immediately and activate the dampener. Understand?" Aaliyah nodded solemnly. "Be careful, Maya." The climb was challenging with Maya's injured arm, but she managed it through sheer determination. At the top of the shaft, she braced herself against the rungs and pushed against the access cover with her good shoulder. It resisted initially, then shifted with a grating sound of metal on concrete. Maya paused, listening for any reaction to the noise, before pushing the cover completely aside and cautiously emerging at ground level. The acid rain had stopped, leaving behind a landscape that steamed faintly as the caustic residue evaporated in the weak sunlight that now penetrated the cloud cover. The area appeared to be the remains of an industrial zone on the outskirts of the former city. Skeletal frameworks of warehouses and processing plants surrounded them, offering potential cover for their approach to the communications outpost, which was visible on a hill approximately 1 kilometer to the northwest. A distinctive structure with satellite dishes and transmission towers still largely intact. After confirming there were no immediate threats, Maya called down to Aaliyah. The child climbed the shaft with surprising ease, her alien physiology apparently well suited to the task. As Aaliyah emerged into the open air, Maya noted with concern that the child's lavender skin seemed paler than before, with a grayish undertone that suggested fatigue or illness. "Are you feeling all right?" Maya asked, kneeling to examine Aaliyah more closely. "Just tired," the child replied, though her tendrils moved listlessly, lacking their usual animation. "And my chest feels tight." Radiation sickness, Maya suspected grimly. Without the protection of a proper hazard suit or a fully functional thermal regulator, Aaliyah's body was reacting to the toxic environment of Zone Omega. They needed to reach safety soon. "We're almost there," Maya encouraged, pointing to the communications outpost on the hill. "See that building with the tall antennas? That's where we're going, where your mother is waiting for us." Aaliyah's eyes followed Maya's gesture, and a hint of renewed determination appeared in her posture. "I can make it." "I know you can," Maya said with more confidence than she felt. "But to be safe, I'm going to carry you. We'll move faster that way." Despite the child's weak protests, Maya lifted Aaliyah onto her back, securing her with improvised straps from her pack. The additional weight was challenging given Maya's own fatigue and injuries. But the alternative, watching the child struggle across the hazardous terrain, was unacceptable. They made their way through the industrial ruins, using the scattered structures for cover. Maya maintained a zigzag path, avoiding open areas where they might be spotted from the air. The drones would be searching for them now, their patterns more aggressive after the tunnel encounter. Their progress was steady but cautious. Twice, they were forced to hide as drones passed overhead, sweeping the area with sensor beams. The signal dampener proved invaluable during these encounters, confusing the drone's detection systems enough to prevent discovery. As they drew closer to the communications outpost, Maya began to worry about what they might find there. Had Alara and the rescue robot arrived safely? Was the transmission equipment still functional after years of abandonment? And most concerningly, had military forces already secured the facility, anticipating their plan? These questions remained unanswered as they reached the base of the hill. The final approach would be the most dangerous, a steep climb with minimal cover, exposed to aerial surveillance. Maya studied the situation carefully, noting the patterns of the search drones circling the area. "We'll wait for those 2 drones to move to the eastern quadrant," she told Aaliyah, who was resting in the shelter of a collapsed wall. "Then, we'll make a straight run for that service entrance on the south side of the facility." The child nodded weakly, her condition visibly deteriorating. Maya checked her own radiation meter, which now flashed warning indicators. They had been exposed too long, even with their limited protection. When the moment came, Maya lifted Aaliyah once more and began the ascent, moving as quickly as the treacherous footing would allow. Her muscles burned with exertion, lungs straining against the toxic air that penetrated her damaged breathing apparatus. But the sight of the service entrance growing closer drove her forward, step by painful step. They were 50 meters from the entrance when a drone unexpectedly appeared around the corner of the building, its sensors immediately locking onto their position. Maya cursed and activated the signal dampener. But it was too late. The drone had already registered their presence and was broadcasting an alert signal. "Run!" Maya urged herself, pushing her exhausted body to its limit. The drone fired a stun projectile that narrowly missed them, striking the ground and releasing a cloud of incapacitating gas. Maya held her breath and charged through the periphery of the cloud, shielding Aaliyah from the worst of the exposure. Just as a second drone appeared on the horizon, the service entrance door burst open. The rescue robot emerged, one mechanical arm extending toward them, while the other held what appeared to be a makeshift weapon, a piece of equipment repurposed into a crude electromagnetic pulse emitter. "Get down!" Alara's voice called from behind the robot. Maya dropped to the ground, covering Aaliyah with her body as the robot fired the EMP device. A wave of blue-white energy pulsed outward, catching both drones. Their systems failed instantly, sending them crashing to the ground in smoldering heaps. "Inside, quickly!" Alara urged as the rescue robot helped Maya to her feet. They stumbled through the service entrance, which the robot sealed behind them. Inside, the communications outpost was a maze of equipment racks, control stations, and monitoring systems. Much of it was powered down or damaged, but some systems still showed signs of life. Emergency lighting and basic environmental controls that had survived on backup power. Alara was seated at a central control station. Various components disassembled around her as she worked to adapt the transmission equipment. She looked up as they entered, relief washing over her features at the sight of Aaliyah. "Thank the stars," she breathed. "The drones found us shortly after we separated. I feared they had captured you." "Nearly," Maya admitted, gently setting Aaliyah down. "Your daughter is incredibly brave." Alara moved to embrace Aaliyah, her injuries clearly painful, but temporarily forgotten in the joy of reunion. "Are you all right, little one?" "Tired," Aaliyah replied, leaning into her mother's embrace. "And my chest hurts." Concern clouded Alara's features as she examined her daughter. "Radiation exposure. We need to get her to proper medical facilities soon." She looked to Maya. "The transmission equipment is partially functional. I've been working to bypass the security protocols and establish a direct link to the Interstellar Peace Commission. But it's taking longer than anticipated." "How can I help?" Maya asked, setting down her pack and retrieving the memory crystal. "The primary transmission array needs to be physically realigned," Alara explained, pointing to a schematic on a nearby monitor. The earthquake disrupted its positioning. The rescue robot attempted the task, but its manipulators lacked the necessary precision for the final adjustments. Maya examined the schematic, noting the access point on the outpost's roof. "I'll handle it. What about power?" "Auxiliary systems are at 38% capacity," Alara replied. "Enough for a single high-power transmission if we shut down all non-essential functions." She glanced at the rescue robot, which had positioned itself near the entrance in a defensive posture. "Including our mechanical friend." The mech's status display showed power reserves at a critical 12%. It had expended significant energy in the confrontation with the drones, and in helping Alara prepare the transmission equipment. "How long until the Allied forces respond to the drone's alert?" Maya asked, already gathering the tools she would need for the array adjustment. "Minutes, perhaps," Alara said grimly. A retrieval team was likely dispatched the moment they lost contact with the search units. "We need to complete the transmission before they arrive." Maya nodded, understanding the gravity of their situation. "I'll handle the array. You prepare the transmission package with the crystal's data. We'll only get one chance at this." As Maya made her way to the roof access, she heard Alara instructing Aaliyah to rest on a makeshift pallet near the control station. The child's condition was worrying, but there was nothing they could do for her until the mission was complete. The roof of the communications outpost offered a panoramic view of Zone Omega, a wasteland stretching to the horizon, broken only by the shattered remnants of what had once been a thriving city. In the distance, Maya could see movement, vehicles approaching along what remained of the main roadway, the retrieval team closing in on their position. Working quickly, Maya located the primary transmission array, a satellite dish approximately 3 meters in diameter, mounted on a motorized gimbal system. The alignment was indeed off. The dish angled incorrectly for a direct transmission to orbital satellites. Using the tools Alara had provided, Maya began the delicate process of realigning the array. The task required both physical strength to loosen seized components and precision to adjust the alignment coordinates to the exact specifications Alara had calculated. As she worked, Maya kept one eye on the approaching vehicles. They were still several kilometers away, but moving quickly. Time was running out. The final adjustment clicked into place, just as she heard Alara's voice through the comm unit she had taken. "Maya, we're ready for transmission. The array?" "Aligned to specifications," Maya confirmed. "Initiating power-up sequence now." She activated the array's control system, and the massive dish hummed to life, motors engaging as it fine-tuned its position automatically. Status indicators shifted from red to amber, and finally to green. "Array online and ready," Maya reported, already moving back toward the roof access. "Beginning transmission sequence." "Acknowledged," Alara replied. "Return quickly. We have company." Maya descended from the roof to find Alara working frantically at the control station, the memory crystal now integrated into the transmission system. Aaliyah remained on her pallet, looking even weaker than before. The rescue robot stood vigilant at the entrance, which now showed signs of attempted forced entry, dents appearing in the reinforced metal as something on the other side attempted to breach it. "Military breaching charges," Maya observed grimly. "They're trying to force their way in." "The transmission is initiating," Alara said, not looking up from her work. "Encryption protocols engaged. Data package preparation at 87%. On a secondary monitor, Maya could see a satellite feed showing their location and a visual representation of the data transmission, a beam of concentrated information shooting up to an orbiting communications satellite. Once received and relayed, the data would be beyond the reach of those who wished to suppress it. The door shuddered under another impact, the metal beginning to buckle inward. The rescue robot positioned itself directly in the path of the imminent breach, ready to defend them with its remaining power. "Transmission commencing," Alara announced, as the system emitted a high-pitched whine. The lights throughout the facility dimmed as power was diverted to the transmission array. "Estimated completion time, 2 minutes, 47 seconds. "They'll be through before then," Maya said, drawing her pulse pistol and moving to stand beside the robot. "We need to buy more time." The door buckled further, a gap appearing at its edge. Through it, Maya could see armored figures, Allied Forces Special Operations troops, equipped with the latest combat gear. They were inserting a hydraulic spreader into the gap, forcing it wider. "Rescue unit," Maya addressed the mech. "How much operational time remains with current power levels?" "Power reserves at 9%. Estimated combat operational time, 4.3 minutes. Just enough. If they were lucky. Maya turned to Alara. Is there another exit from this facility? Emergency evacuation tunnel, Alara replied, not taking her eyes from the transmission progress indicators. Northwest corner, behind the auxiliary power units. It leads to a bunker approximately 200 meters from the main structure. When the transmission completes, take Aaliyah and go, Maya instructed. The robot and I will hold them off as long as possible. And then what? Alara asked, finally looking up. Even if the transmission succeeds, we're still deep in Zone Omega with military forces hunting us. One problem at a time, Maya said with a grim smile. First, we get the truth out. Then we worry about survival. The door gave way with a screech of tearing metal. The rescue robot moved forward immediately, engaging the first soldiers to breach the entrance. Despite its dwindling power, the mech was formidable in the confined space, its powerful arms keeping the attackers at bay. Maya provided covering fire, her pulse pistol set to its highest non-lethal setting. She had no desire to kill these soldiers. They were following orders, just as she once had. But she would not allow them to stop the transmission. 1 minute remaining, Alara called out, her voice barely audible over the chaos of the skirmish. The rescue robot was failing, its movements becoming sluggish as its power reserves approached critical levels. 2 soldiers had managed to get past it, only to be driven back by Maya's precision fire. But more were pushing through, and Maya's pistol charge was depleting rapidly. 50 seconds, Alara updated. A soldier managed to flank Maya, emerging from behind an equipment rack with weapon raised. Before she could react, the rescue robot pivoted with unexpected speed and intercepted the attacker, throwing them back through the breached doorway. The effort cost the mech dearly. Its power indicators dropped to critical levels, movements becoming jerky and uncoordinated. 30 seconds, Alara called. Another soldier breached their defenses, this one equipped with what appeared to be a data extraction device, clearly intent on stopping the transmission and recovering the memory crystal. Maya intercepted them with a diving tackle, both of them crashing into a bank of equipment. They grappled briefly before Maya managed to strike a stunning blow to the soldier's helmet, temporarily incapacitating them. 20 seconds, Alara announced, her voice tense but determined. The rescue robot had positioned itself directly in the doorway, using its failing body as a physical barrier against the incoming forces. Its power indicators flashed critical warnings as it expended the last of its energy in this final defensive stance. 10 seconds! Maya retreated to Alara's position, providing a last line of defense as the transmission neared completion. Outside, she could hear the distinctive sound of military dropships arriving, reinforcements that would overwhelm them in moments once they breached the facility. "Transmission complete!" Alara exclaimed, as the system emitted a confirmation tone. "Data package successfully delivered to Interstellar Peace Commission's secure servers." At that exact moment, the rescue robot systems failed completely. The mech froze in position, becoming nothing more than an inert obstacle as its power core went dark. The soldiers outside immediately began pushing past it, pouring into the facility with weapons raised. "Go!" Maya shouted, firing her pulse pistol to provide covering fire as Alara scooped up Aaliyah and ran for the evacuation tunnel. "I'll hold them off." Maya maintained her position, driving back the first wave of soldiers with well-placed shots. But her weapons charge was nearly depleted, and the sheer number of attackers made the outcome inevitable. As the last energy pulse left her weapon, Maya prepared for the end. The soldiers advanced cautiously, weapons trained on her. The lead officer stepped forward, face hidden behind a tactical helmet with an opaque visor. "Stand down," the officer commanded. "You're surrounded." Maya dropped her now useless weapon, but remained defiantly in place, blocking the path to the evacuation tunnel. "It's too late. The transmission is complete. The truth is out." The officer paused, hand rising to the side of their helmet as if receiving a communication. After a tense moment, They signaled the other soldiers to lower their weapons. "Commander," one of the soldiers protested, "our orders have changed," the officer interrupted, removing their helmet to reveal a face lined with the weariness of command. "Stand down, all of you." Maya stared in confusion as the soldiers reluctantly complied. The officer approached her slowly, hands visible in a gesture of non-hostility. "Captain Maya Reyes," the officer said, recognition in their eyes. "Thought you died at Argos Ridge with the rest of your medical unit." "Nearly did," Maya replied cautiously. "Who are you?" "Colonel Samara Torres, Interstellar Peacekeeping Force." She gestured to the insignia on her armor, distinct from the standard Allied forces markings. "Your transmission was received. High Command is in chaos. The evidence is compelling." Maya maintained her protective stance, unwilling to believe this sudden reversal. "Why should I trust you?" "Because I've seen enough war to last 10 lifetimes," Torres replied wearily. "And because I have direct orders from the Peace Commission to extract you and the Astrani survivors." She gestured to the soldiers, who were now securing the perimeter rather than advancing. "We're not here to silence you. We're here to protect you." As if to confirm her words, a new communication came through on the facility's emergency broadcast system. A voice speaking with the formal cadence of an official Peace Commission announcement. "Attention all Allied forces and Astrani Conclave units. This is Commissioner General Harding of the Interstellar Peace Commission. Evidence of critical importance has been received regarding the origins and perpetuation of the conflict. A ceasefire is hereby ordered on all fronts. I repeat, a complete cessation of hostilities is now in effect. All military personnel are to stand down and await further instructions." Maya felt her legs weaken as the implications washed over her. She steadied herself against a console, the adrenaline that had kept her going suddenly ebbing away. "Alara," she called toward the evacuation tunnel. "It's safe. You can come out." There was a moment of hesitation before Alara emerged cautiously from the tunnel, carrying Aliyah in her arms. The child's condition had deteriorated further, her breathing labored, and her lavender skin now ashen gray. "She needs medical attention immediately," Maya said urgently. Colonel Torres nodded and activated her comm unit. "Medical team to my location. Priority 1. We have an Astrani child with severe radiation exposure." She turned back to Maya and Alara. "A medical transport is standing by. We'll get you to the nearest operational medical facility with xenobiology capabilities." "Why are you helping us?" Alara asked, suspicion evident in her voice despite her concern for Aliyah. "Because your transmission didn't just reach the Peace Commission," Torres explained. "It was broadcast simultaneously to every major population center, both human and Astrani. The evidence it contained, the manipulation by certain factions on both sides, the suppressed collaborative research, the artificial escalation of hostilities, it's all public now." She shook her head in amazement. "You've accomplished in minutes what diplomats couldn't achieve in years." Medical personnel arrived, moving quickly to assess Aliyah's condition. They administered emergency treatment with equipment clearly designed for Astrani physiology, confirming Torres' claim that they were indeed there to help. As they prepared to transport Aliyah to the waiting medical shuttle, Alara reached for Maya's hand. "Come with us," she said softly. "Please." Maya hesitated only briefly before nodding. Whatever came next, they would face it together, former enemies united by a common cause and the simple truth that compassion could transcend even the deepest divisions. The journey to the medical facility passed in a blur of urgency and guarded hope. The medical transport, equipped with decontamination systems and advanced life support, sped through the ruins of Zone Omega toward the nearest operational medical center, a Peace Commission installation established near the former border territory. Maya watched as the medical team worked feverishly to stabilize Aliyah, their movements efficient despite the unusual physiology of their patient. Alara remained close to her daughter, speaking softly in the musical Astrani language whenever the child's eyes fluttered open. "Will she survive?" Maya asked quietly, as Colonel Torres joined her in the observation area of the transport. "The medical team is optimistic," Torres replied. "Astrani children are remarkably resilient, and the Peace Commission facilities have been treating radiation exposure cases since the early days of the conflict." She glanced at Maya's own injuries, the acid burns, the radiation exposure evident in her pallor. "You should let them examine you as well." Maya shook her head. "Not until I know Aaliyah will recover." Torres didn't press the issue, instead shifting the conversation. "The data from the memory crystal is being analyzed by both human and Astrani scientists. Initial reports confirm what Alara claimed. The collaborative research had potential applications far beyond what either side imagined. Medical technologies that could have saved millions of lives during the war." "And the evidence of manipulation?" Maya asked. "Damning," Torres confirmed grimly. "High-ranking officials on both sides deliberately sabotaged peace efforts, escalated minor incidents into major confrontations, and suppressed information that might have led to reconciliation, all to maintain power, control resources, or advance personal agendas." She sighed heavily. "The public reaction has been intense. Protests are erupting across both territories. The old power structures are crumbling." Maya absorbed this information silently. After years of scavenging in the ruins of a war-torn world, it was difficult to imagine what might come next, what shape a post-conflict society might take. "And what happens to them?" she asked finally, nodding toward Alara and Aaliyah. "To all the survivors caught in between?" "That's what we're working to determine," Torres replied. "The Peace Commission is establishing reconciliation centers, creating frameworks for cooperation rather than division. It won't be easy. Too much blood has been spilled, too many lives lost. But your actions today have created a possibility that didn't exist before." The transport slowed as it approached the medical facility, a sprawling complex of prefabricated structures surrounding a central permanent building. Peace Commission flags flew alongside both Human Alliance and Astrani Conclave banners, a visual representation of the fragile new reality they were entering. As they prepared for landing, Alara looked up from Aaliyah's bedside and met Maya's gaze. No words were necessary. The connection between them transcended language, species, and the artificial divisions of politics. They had both lost much to the war, but together they had created a chance for something new to grow from the ruins. The medical facility was a hive of activity, with mixed teams of human and Astrani medical personnel working side by side. Aaliyah was immediately transferred to a specialized treatment unit, while Alara, despite her own injuries, refused to leave her daughter's side. Maya finally consented to medical attention, allowing the doctors to treat her acid burns and begin the process of counteracting her radiation exposure. As they worked, she watched the news broadcasts playing on screens throughout the facility, images of crowds gathering in city centers across both territories, holding improvised signs calling for peace and accountability. The truth had indeed been a powerful weapon, perhaps the most powerful of all. Days passed as they recovered, each bringing new developments in the rapidly changing political landscape. High-ranking officials from both sides were being removed from power or voluntarily stepping down in the face of public outrage. Provisional governments were forming, with Peace Commission oversight to ensure transparency and adherence to the emerging peace accords. Aaliyah's condition improved steadily under the specialized care, her natural resilience supplemented by advanced medical treatments. The gray pallor faded from her skin, returning to its natural lavender hue, and her tendrils once again moved with animation as she regained strength. One morning, as Maya sat beside Aaliyah's bed reading stories from a tablet containing both human and Astrani literature, Colonel Torres arrived with news. "The Peace Commission has made a decision regarding the future of the collaborative research," she announced, addressing both Maya and Alara, who had been resting nearby. "They're establishing a new research center, one that will continue the original work that was interrupted by the war. They want you, Alara, to lead the Astrani scientific team." Alara's large eyes widened in surprise. "Me? But I was considered a traitor by my own government." "A perspective that has changed dramatically in light of recent revelations," Torres replied with a hint of a smile. "Your actions are now seen as heroic by most of your people, and your expertise in the original research makes you uniquely qualified for this position." Alara absorbed this information slowly, her tendrils moving in that thinking pattern Maya had come to recognize. Where would this research center be located? "That's the most interesting part," Torres said. "They're proposing a neutral location, a space station in orbit between our two territories, a literal middle ground where both species can work together without the complications of differing environmental needs." "A symbolic choice," Maya observed. "Exactly," Torres confirmed. "And they've asked me to extend an invitation to you as well, Maya." "Me? I'm not a scientist." "No. But you are a medic with practical experience treating both species. And more importantly, you've demonstrated the ability to bridge divides that others thought impassable. They're creating a new division focused on practical applications of the research, taking the theoretical work and developing real-world treatments for communities still suffering from the effects of the war. They want you to head the implementation team." Maya found herself speechless. The offer so far removed from the life she had been living that it seemed almost unreal. From scavenger to leader of a peace initiative, a transformation as dramatic as the political changes sweeping through both territories. "You don't have to decide immediately," Torres added, recognizing Maya's hesitation. "The facility won't be operational for several months. But I thought you should know that your future holds more possibilities than you might have imagined." After Torres departed, Maya and Alara sat in contemplative silence, each processing the potential new direction their lives might take. "What will you do?" Alara asked finally. "I don't know," Maya admitted. "For so long, survival was my only goal. I never allowed myself to think beyond the next day, the next meal, the next safe shelter." She looked at Aliyah, who was sleeping peacefully. "What about you? Will you accept their offer?" "I think I must," Alara replied softly. "Not just for the research itself, though that remains important to me, but for Aliyah's sake. She deserves a future where she can grow up without fear, where she can see both our species working together rather than destroying each other." Maya nodded, understanding completely. "She changed everything for me, you know. Her voice on that radio, it reminded me of who I used to be, before the war hardened me." "Children have that power," Alara observed, her expression softening as she gazed at her daughter. "They see possibilities where adults see only obstacles." The conversation was interrupted as Aliyah stirred, her large eyes opening and immediately finding Maya. "Are you going to tell me another story?" the child asked sleepily. "Of course," Maya replied with a genuine smile. "But this time, I think we might be starting a new one." In the months that followed, the landscape of post-war relations transformed rapidly. The Peace Commission's influence expanded, supported by populations on both sides, weary of conflict and eager for a new beginning. The evidence from Alara's memory crystal continued to reveal deeper layers of manipulation and deception by the former leadership, further cementing public support for the peace process. Maya and Alara, along with Aliyah, relocated temporarily to a Peace Commission facility, where they assisted in planning the new research center. Aliyah's recovery was complete, and the child thrived in the mixed environment, learning from both human and Astrani teachers, and serving as an unofficial ambassador between species with her natural curiosity and openness. The day finally came when the new research station was ready for its inaugural ceremony. Named Concordia, the ancient human word for harmony, it hung in orbit at the midpoint between Earth and the Astrani homeworld, a gleaming structure of interconnected modules designed to accommodate the environmental needs of both species. Maya stood on the observation deck, watching as the official delegation shuttles approached. The ceremony would include representatives from both governments, scientific communities, and the Peace Commission, a public declaration of a new era of cooperation. Aaliyah joined her at the viewport, her tendrils moving excitedly as she watched the approaching vessels. "Is it everything you imagined?" Maya asked, smiling down at the child. "Better," Aaliyah replied with the simple certainty of youth. "Because you're here too." Alara approached, wearing the formal attire of an Astrani scientific director, flowing garments in deep purple that complemented her natural coloration, adorned with the symbols of her academic achievements and new position. "They're ready for us," she informed them. "The ceremony will begin soon." Together, they made their way to the central chamber where the dedication would take place. The room had been designed with deliberate symbolism, a perfect circle with entrances from both the human and Astrani sections of the station, converging at a central platform where representatives of both species would stand as equals. As they took their places, Maya found herself reflecting on the journey that had brought them here, from the ruins of a devastated city to this beacon of hope, a path that began with a small voice calling for help across the divide of conflict. The ceremony commenced with formal speeches from dignitaries, but the most powerful moment came when Aaliyah was invited to join the official representatives on the central platform. The child stepped forward confidently, taking Maya's hand on one side and her mother's on the other, creating a living bridge between species. Standing there under the soft lights of the chamber, with delegates from both worlds watching in respectful silence, Maya realized that they had created something more valuable than peace treaties or scientific breakthroughs. They had forged a new possibility, a future where differences could be sources of strength rather than division, where the ruins of the past could become foundations for something better. As Aaliyah looked up at her with those large, expressive eyes, Maya saw in them not an alien child, not a former enemy, but simply a future worth protecting. And in that moment, she knew with certainty that her decision to answer that small voice, echoing from the ruins, had been the first step toward healing, not just for Aaliyah and Alara, but for herself, and perhaps for their worlds as well. The dawn light streamed through the viewports of Concordia Station, casting long rays across the chamber where the three of them stood together, not as human and Astrani, not as former enemies, but simply as survivors who had found in each other the courage to imagine a different world than the one they had inherited. And that, Maya thought as she squeezed Aaliyah's small hand in her own, was perhaps the greatest victory of all.